Okay, today Billy will be showing you some very interesting things. He'll be talking about relaxation, the importance of relaxation and how it is happening. The sublime eightfold way and he will also be talking about what is called the reticular activating system, which is a toggle switch. Now all these things have been explained in these books that we have here, and if you read some of the books you'll be able to understand. I have already explained that what we are really doing is what are called the Noble Eightfold Path, which is I translate as the Sublime Eightfold Way. And what we are doing at this retreat is mainly the beginning level, and some of those who have been practicing for some time, they can get on to the second level, but still normally leading the household life, it is very difficult to be practicing even the second level to the highest degree. So, because most of the time we are attracted to pleasant sights, pleasant sounds, pleasant smells, pleasant tastes, and pleasant touches. So we have to give up these things, not just for a few days, but for a long time, in order to be able to get into the proper meditation. So this is why it is necessary to practice these things, so that at least in a future life you will be able to do better. That's the only expectation possible. Otherwise you have to renounce now itself. So this is why this is only a practice in renunciation. Huh? Yeah. So you can listen to Billy and see in pictures what I am talking about, so that you can visualize it, and then through visualizing you can understand even better. So it's very important to learn these things, and we have at least we can use another 10 minutes. If you want to ask any questions, and we can discuss that, but the main thing is to understand that we have to stop thinking about what we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and we have to stop reacting to those things and learning to relax the body and calm the mind. And it is this relaxation that you will begin to understand, and also how we can learn to switch off the emotional part and try to maintain the thinking part and be aware of the experiential way of thinking instead of the existential way of thinking. Existential way is to think of myself and others or objects. Normally in the existential way of thinking, we begin to form relationships, and that relationship itself creates all the suffering. It is only when we are able to get out of that way of thinking and begin to observe things in terms of experience, that there is only an experience. There is no real existence. We have been discussing these things, and so you will begin to understand. So without wasting much time, I will let Billy continue showing you these important things.
Good evening, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Once again, we're here to take a look at some presentations about what Bhante has been teaching us. Yesterday evening, we looked at stress and emotional excitement. So the notes that have been handed out is for yesterday's presentation. Tonight I will give you the notes later, because if I give it to you now, you'll be busy looking at it instead of paying attention. So for now, please put away yesterday's notes so that you can focus on this evening's presentation. Tonight, we will talk about relaxation. Relaxation and what Bhante just mentioned about this reticular activating system. Before I begin with that, we just do a quick refresher of yesterday's presentation so that it is fresh in your mind. We look at the process of experience, and Bhante has been telling us to think in terms of experience and not in terms of existence. So when we look at the process of experience, environmental activities stimulate our sense organs. Light entering the eye, air vibrations of sound entering the ear, and so on. And with this stimulation, the Panchakanda arises, what Bhante calls the 5 constituents of the process of perception. And with this Panchakanda arising, it produces a perception. And this perception is vijnana. With this perception, and at the same time when Panchakanda arises, the sensation, sanya, triggers the arising of the cognitive process, mano. With mano, it tries to interpret the perception, interpreting this vijnana. Vijnana is actually the big picture of what the sense organs picked up. What the sense organs picked up is just sanya vedana. It goes to the brain and it gets constructed through chitta sankhara to produce vijnana. And mano will try to interpret this perception, vijnana, which is the big picture, made of various parts of various objects. It tries to interpret it by comparing it with your memory of past experiences and drawing from memory of past experiences, which is always stored in the categorized manner. It will then give meaning to what was perceived as perception. And the meaning given is called Dharma. So in this case, the word Dharma with a small d is the meaning given to perception. At the same time, the Panchakanda has this Vedana. Vedana is the feeling of the sensation. That means every time the sense organ picks up sensations, that sensation can either be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And this feeling is not an emotional feeling. This is very low-level sensory feeling. And with that feeling of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, chitta arises. Chitta is the affective process. Basically, chitta tries to figure out how it affects the organism. And chitta arises in an unconscious manner. With the arising of chitta, it triggers a biochemical reaction in the body, releasing hormones, and this causes tension in the body. And tension in the body is then felt as bodily sensations. So the word dukkha here refers to the physical feeling, the physical sensations of bodily reactions. When your heart is beating faster, when your lungs are breathing more rapidly, there is a certain sensation, bodily sensation. So this dukkha is referring to this bodily sensation. And again, this bodily sensation can be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So with this bodily sensation, emotion begins. You see, as I mentioned yesterday, a lot of people used to think that emotion is purely mental. But we know now that, and from various scientists, Hans Selye is one of them, and various other psychologists in more recent times, they have basically all come to the conclusion that it is the biochemical reaction in the body that begins the emotional process. So emotion begins with a physiological activity in the body first. Biochemical reactions in terms of hormones, enzymes, and various chemicals in the body. So with that, it triggers the arising of memory, imagination, expectation. And when memory, imagination, expectation arise, this is the psychological arousal. This arousal leads to emotional excitement depending on how you have interpreted what you have perceived as well as how you have felt your bodily sensations. So this emotional excitement disturbs the rational thinking, disturbs your mano. And we saw yesterday, the scientists have shown you that there are very strong connections coming from the amygdala, the emotional part of the brain, going to your thinking brain, which is most of it done in the front here, frontal lobe. And there's a particular small region just below the frontal lobe called the prefrontal cortex, PFC. And that is the part that makes all the decisions and judgment. And that is being disturbed by strong signals coming from the amygdala. And because of that, you will not be able to think rationally under normal circumstances. When you get carried away with emotions, when you get carried away with sensations, pleasant sensations or unpleasant sensations. Pleasant sensations lead to lust and desire for more. And if you can't get more, you get greedy. Or whatever you get, you want more of it, you become greedy. So lust and greed, lobha. Unpleasant sensations lead to you wanting to avoid it or get rid of it. And if you can't get rid of it, you begin to hate what you are experiencing. So it's aversion and hatred, dosa. So with these two conditions, you begin to want to react. And the third one is moha. Moha is when you get neutral sensations and you begin to think that, oh, I have felt something out there. And when there is something out there, then there is something in here. And the thing out there is the world you think about. And what you think is in here is the self you think there is. So it is the delusion of the existence of the self. That is moha. So that is how lobha, dosa, and moha arise. And with that, there is a tug-of-war going on in your mind between the emotional part of your mind. In this case, this word feeling refers to your emotional feeling. Whether what kind of sensations you're feeling in the body, what kind of feeling about what is happening in your body, and how you feel about what is happening with your interpretation of your circumstances. So that feeling is fighting with your thinking process, your rational thinking. So that is vichikicha, the cognitive dissonance. And with that happening, basically you begin to want to form a decision to want to do something, intention, or we call this volition, cetana. You have lust and greed for something pleasurable. You have aversion and hatred for something that is unpleasant. At the same time, there is a delusion of the existence of the self. Lobha, dosa, moha. And then you take action. Manifestation of this intention in the form of action. You want more of gain, less of loss, more of fame, less of ill fame, more of praise, less of blame, more of pleasure, less of pain. These are the 8 worldly conditions. And then you take the action to try to get all that. And that action you take is called karma. Karma is the action, manifestation of your volition. And this is unskillful action. With this unskillful action, it creates consequences in your life. Usually unwholesome consequences, unhappy consequences. And this is basically the overall dukkha, suffering, as people would translate it. And it is made of those 5 parts: sokha, parideva, dukkha, domanassa, and upayasa. So basically that is the process of experience. At the end of the day, the experience is suffering, because we become attached to all these things that we want, and we have hatred for things we don't want. This emotional reaction of wanting more pleasures and getting rid of pain, that emotional reaction is called tanha. And tanha is in the form of lobha, dosa, moha. So that is basically the process of experience. In order to experience a happier life, a more peaceful life, you need to learn to relax the body first. The very first thing you need to learn is to relax the body. So a relaxed body is the absolute necessary condition for a calm mind. As long as you don't relax the body, there is no way you can properly calm your mind. You may momentarily think your mind is calm, but with a agitated body, the calmness of that momentary calmness of the mind will be disturbed and disrupted. And then you're back to square one. You're getting all stressed up again. Now, this toggling between relaxation and stress is actually a switch. You can't experience both at the same time. This is why there are people who claim this, especially I hear this a lot from my former bosses in the office. This is what they say. Oh, I'm very good at handling stress. Whenever things stress me very much, I can stay very calm. Whoa, that doesn't happen. When they get stressed, they are stressed. The mind is experiencing turbulence. They just think that they are relaxed, but they're not. When they are truly relaxed, they are not stressed. And this switching between these two states is actually a lot has to do with your willpower. What do you want in life? Do you want happiness or do you want suffering? And this wanting, Bhante has mentioned it a couple of nights ago. This wanting is to visualize what is it that you want to gain in your experience. Do you want to gain happiness? So this visualization of visualizing the goal is called psycho-cybernetics. So those of you who are interested to understand that further, it'll be good if you look for that book. And I've seen it in Borders. I don't know about MPH. It's a very small, soft cover book, red and white. It's a wonderful book. Okay. So, it's very important for you to understand that relaxation is the most important step in your meditation practice. As long as your body is not relaxed or placed in a relaxed state, you will not be able to meditate properly. That agitation in the body would disturb your meditation practice. But I'll explain a little further. This relaxation in meditation is not about sitting back, leaning back on a cushion. Then you're not meditating. Because as long as you lean back on the cushion, the back of your back is feeling something comfortable, it sends signals to the brain, and the reticular activating system actually switches you to a sleeping mode. You end up going into sleepiness. We'll talk about that in a moment. I'll explain to you. Because this reticular activating system switches between three states: sleep, wake, conscious awakeness, and stressed. Right? So let's carry on. We have taken a look at how stress arises. Now let's take a look at how relaxation happens. Some years ago, 3 or 4 decades ago, this medical doctor at Harvard University, he's still around. Some of you may know him, Herbert Benson. He came across the idea and he actually wrote about it. He calls it the relaxation response. He says our body has the ability to produce this relaxation response. In other words, what he wrote about is precisely the opposite of what Hans Selye wrote about. Hans Selye wrote about stress, and he calls it the general adaptation syndrome. How stress disturbs and agitates the body, and that disturbs the mind. Then Herbert Benson discovered that there is a way to relax the body and calm the mind. And he did a lot of research. First, he started doing research on meditators from the field of transcendental meditation. And after that, he realized that there is an even much better form of meditation that is more effective. Not only can it relax the body, it can calm the mind, but it can also help the mind to see things more clearly. So he changed his research into looking at Buddhist meditation. So the earlier part of Herbert Benson's research was focused on transcendental meditation, but the later part of Herbert Benson's research was based on Buddhist meditation. I'm showing you here, he's still talking a little bit about transcendental meditation, but I'll just explain to you what aspect of this explanation is referring to transcendental meditation. So I'm going to show you this video of what he explains about this relaxation response. The body can produce this relaxation response.
We are fortunate that we have within us a response opposite to the fight or flight response. That is the relaxation response. And there are scores of techniques.
But in all of them, 2 steps are needed. The first is a repetition, a word, a sound, a movement. The second is freeing your mind of thought by concentrating on that repetition. And everyone can do it. The relaxation response can be triggered by all kinds of activity, from the repetition of a prayer to the primal beat of dancing. Even the rhythm of exercise can reverse the harmful effects of stress.
So there Herbert Benson mentioned about sound and chanting. Those are related to transcendental meditation. Because in transcendental meditation, the instructor will help produce a mantra for you to use. Now, the problem with using mantra or chanting when you try to meditate is that it is rhythmic. And maybe if we get a chance tomorrow or another time or in a future occasion, I will show you. When you engage in rhythmic activity, you end up experiencing an effect called the hypnagogic effect. Hypnagogic effect actually begins to put your mind to sleep. And if you allow it to carry on, you end up falling into the hypnotic state of mind. And in a hypnotic state of mind, you are sort of awake and not quite awake. You're not really asleep, but you are somewhere in between. Somewhere and nowhere in between. And in that state, your mind, the emotional mind, the chitta, begins to produce a lot of memory images. And with these memory images and imagination images and expectation images, it depends on what your imagination is. It depends on what your expectations are. It starts to produce hallucination. So you have to be careful. When you meditate according to a chant, according to mantra, it can put you into this hypnotic state. So most importantly is when you meditate, then you should not be engaging in music. Some people say, oh, if I play this soft music, it helps me meditate. Very good. The soft music is rhythmic. The soft music is external objects to your mind. It is sound coming into your ears. And when you begin to pay attention to external objects, you are not meditating anymore. And these external objects, these sounds, can produce a very relaxing effect. But it is actually a superficial relaxation. And that superficial relaxation can actually produce imagination in your mind, can arouse imagination, depending on your expectations. What did you expect? If you expect to experience jhana, and you hear this music and you fall into this hypnotic state, you might begin to hallucinate the experience of jhana. So you have to be careful of this hallucination. But today we won't talk about that. Maybe we get some opportunity some other time. It may be in a future retreat. We will go deeper into that because this retreat is a bit short. So now you have seen what, simply put, relaxation response is. In a nutshell, what Herbert Benson mentioned is that firstly, in step 1, repetitive, flowing, rhythmic activity. Word, phrase, chant or mantra, sound, movement, exercise. Right? Except for exercise and internal movement, where you can focus on what you are doing. If you engage in things that come from outside, stimulating your sense organs such as listening to music, hearing the chanting, or you engage in a very rhythmic activity like chanting or repeating a mantra, repetitive activity, you could fall into the hypnotic state. So you have to be careful about that. So in the case of Buddhist meditation, as opposed to transcendental meditation, you observe. You don't engage in the object. You don't begin to interact with the object. You don't begin to chant. You don't begin to repeat anything. right? You don't listen to any sounds from outside. You just observe your thoughts as they arise. How did they arise? Right? We'll come to that in later on. Further on, we will talk about that. The second part, when you engage with that first part, then the second part is, at the same time, you free your mind of disruptive thoughts by focusing and concentrating on your attention fully on the activity, whatever the activity is, and focusing on the present moment, here and now, avoiding this mental proliferation. That means avoiding the mind jumping around like a monkey mind. Right? Because when you focus on what you're doing in the present moment, your mind is anchored and linked to the present moment. And when you're observing the present moment as it arises and falls away, you're observing the present moment coming and going. Every present moment, as soon as it arises, it becomes the past moment. Bhante has asked us the other day, how long is a moment? A day, a minute, a second, a fraction of a second? Right? So the present moment cannot be defined. It arises and falls away. The moment it arises, it falls away. So it keeps coming. So you have to observe the way it arises, right? What arises and how it arises. So by doing that, it frees your mind from thinking about yesterday's problems or tomorrow's anxieties or what you expect to happen right this moment or today or now, right? What do you hope to get out of meditation? If your mind is very focused on what you hope to get out of meditation, that is called expectation. And expectation is not conducive to good meditation practice. You should not have expectations. Many people ask about, in fact, I keep receiving this inquiry from people who saw my talks on hypnosis and meditation, and they ask me questions like, do you know any good teacher who can teach you jhana? So I say to them, don't get attached to jhana. Forget jhana. Just learn to relax and learn to focus your attention within, and that's it. Don't worry about expecting to experience jhana, because that expectation is not conducive to good meditation practice. That expectation can lead to hypnotic effect of hallucinating the experience of jhana. So, back to this relaxation response. So the step one is this activity that you are engaged in the present moment. Step two is to free your mind of disruptive thoughts by focusing your attention on this present moment that you are experiencing. Now, it was not mentioned in the video, but there is a third thing that should happen, and Herbert Benson has written about it in his articles. From time to time, you can't help it. Unless you are a very, very well experienced meditator, even the most experienced meditator will experience this. From time to time, disruptive thoughts will arise. They arise from memory, they arise from imagination, they arise from expectations. You have no control over the fact that they can arise. What you have control over is what you do with it when it arises. So as you are paying attention, let's say, to your breathing, suddenly a disruptive thought arises. Oh, yesterday my boss scolded me, I'm so upset with him. That kind of thought can arise. Now, when these disruptive thoughts arise, what do? If disruptive thoughts arise, gently brush them off with a passive response. Passive, not reactive. Passive means just brush it away and let it go. And say, well, never mind. That's passive response. When these disruptive thoughts arise, you just treat it as, well, never mind. For those of you who understand Bahasa Malaysia, the Malaysians, there is a word for this, well, never mind attitude. This is the only time you should practice that, well, never mind attitude. In Malay, it is called what? Tidapa. So, practice tidapa in your meditation, please. When you are meditating, these disruptive thoughts arise, then you just allow it to go away with the tidapa attitude. Don't mind it. Never mind. Let it go. And don't fight it. When you resist it, it fights back. It becomes a tug of war. between you and the disruptive thoughts. And what happens? The disruptive thoughts won't disappear. It won't fade away because you're fighting it. As long as you're fighting it, it is fighting you. But if you just say, well, never mind, you are conscious of it. When you become conscious of it and you just let it go away, then it will dissipate. When you fight it, it will not dissipate. It stays there. So do not give attention to or dwell upon or recall these disruptive thoughts. Just let it go. Right? Brush it off gently, passively, not reactively. Don't fight it. So this is a very important lesson for you when you are meditating and disruptive thoughts arise. Right? Some people teach you to observe the disruptive thoughts. You know, the more you observe it, the more you try to figure out what it is, why it arises, what are you doing? You are allowing it to stay. You are allowing it to continue. Just brush it away. And then refocus your mind back on what you were doing. If you were observing your breathing, refocus your mind back on the breathing. If you were doing meditation, observing the way you were walking step by step, refocus your mind on your steps. Right? So don't fight it, don't analyze it. Right? So that's how you can deal with it. Conscious relaxation. Stress is naturally reduced by, firstly, allowing biochemical reactions in the body to subside with conscious relaxation. Conscious relaxation means you are consciously aware that there is tension and you just consciously place your body in a comfortable position, consciously release the tension in your muscles. You can do that. Whenever your muscles are all tensed up, your teeth are grinding and your jaw is all tensed up, you can consciously just send instructions to it to just release. Let go the grinding teeth. Relax the jaw. Your tongue may be hitting against the upper palate of your mouth. And that is tension. Allow that tension to release by consciously focusing your attention on the tongue and just release the tension in your tongue. So this is how you allow the release of tension. This is conscious relaxation. Allowing these biochemical reactions in the body to subside. Your muscles are tense because of adrenaline. Your body is shaking, your heart is beating faster, and your breathing is hastened or deepened, all because of cortisol. So these are harmful hormones. Allow them to subside. So that is the first part of conscious relaxation. The second part is to eliminate emotional arousals, which leads to emotional excitement. And you do that with conscious focused attention on the process of perception. Focusing on the present moment, how your thoughts arise. As you focus on your thoughts. How your breathing is happening as you focus on your breathing. Whether you are breathing long, whether you're breathing short, whether you're breathing fast or you're breathing slow. When you focus on that, your mind is no longer engaged with the past or the future, no longer engaged with memory, imagination, or expectation. So that is conscious relaxation. If we don't do that, we interpret our circumstances wrongly. This is why human beings are the only species. Right? Human being is the only species of animal that regrets the past, fearful of the future, and dissatisfied with the present moment. Because we constantly allow memory to arise, to disturb our thinking. We constantly allow imagination to come in and disturb our thinking. We often allow expectations to arise to disturb our thinking. And we begin to interpret our circumstances based on memory, imagination, expectation. And this interpretation of your circumstances leads to regret of the past, fearful of the future, and dissatisfied with the present. So, learning conscious relaxation is the way to help you overcome this problem. And conscious relaxation is just the first part. The next part is to learn how to calm your mind by focusing on specific things. And the way your mind interprets. So you can focus on the way your mind interprets your circumstances. So we'll come to that. This very well-known counseling psychologist, Daniel Goleman, he actually talks about how to handle stress, and he mentioned 3 windows of opportunity.
Stress isn't really so much in the things that happen in your life. It's really in how we react to them. And we can do something about those reactions. There are 3 windows of opportunity when it comes to handling the stress in our lives. The first is to do something to change things for the better. You know, whatever's the cause of the stress, if you can change it, do it. The second is in how you see it, changing the way you perceive what's happening. I once heard a wonderful line from a television preacher. It goes like this: something good is going to happen to you today. I love that line. That is so great. You don't know what it is. It's a wonderful thought because it allows the possibility that what may seem so bad at first has an upside, that there's a silver lining to that cloud, right? Now, if we can't change the things that are happening to us and we can't change how we see it, then we're left with a third opportunity, and that's handling the way our body and our mind react to these things. See, when the body is stressed, the emotional centers flood the body with stress hormones. And this makes it do things like shunt blood from the arms and the legs into the organs. It's a fight or flight response. It pumps up our blood pressure, speeds up our heartbeat. It steals energy, actually, from the immune system, it turns out, to get us ready for an emergency. It's what's called the fight or flight response. You've heard about that. Now, if that response gets triggered day after day, week after week, and month after month, over years, what happens is the biological system in our body that's most susceptible genetically, that's most reactive, is going to start to develop a stress-caused disease. You know, if you're a cardiovascular reactor, you're going to get high blood pressure. If you react in your gut, you're going to get problems there, and so on throughout the body. That's how stress over years and years leads to disease. It speeds up the process of coming down with the disease. So constant stress, it's like getting your amygdala stuck in high gear. Continual hijacks. We need to calm down. That's where relaxation comes in.
So he mentioned that getting your amygdala stuck in high gear, that is amygdala hijack. We talked about it yesterday. And he says you need to calm down. You need to relax. That's where relaxation comes in. So he mentioned 3 windows of opportunity. By remaining calm and relaxed, we have 3 windows of opportunity to overcome the stress. Whatever that is causing the stress, something happened out there. And we begin to figure out that this thing that happened out there is going to affect our life in a negative manner. Then we get all stressed up. We interpret the circumstances in a certain way. And then we begin to react in a certain way. So there are 3 windows of opportunity when that happens. The first is to do something to change your circumstances. Now, doing something to change your circumstances is not always possible because some circumstances may not be easily changeable. Or the change may be so drastic you may not want to go that way. Now, if you are not able to change your circumstances easily, then the next thing you can do is change the way you perceive your circumstances, the way you interpret what is going on, your perspective of what is happening, your point of view of what is happening. Change the way you interpret your circumstances, how you perceive what's going on, how you perceive how it can affect you. So change the way you perceive your circumstances. Now, if that is not possible, then the third option you have, the third and the final option here is change the way you respond to the circumstances. Right? So you have to figure out a response that can help bring more peace and calm into your life, whatever that response is. So you have to figure it out with your thinking mind. We are equipped with a thinking mind. If we don't use it, we are just like animals. So use your thinking mind and figure out What is it that you can do to change your response so that it can bring more happiness and peace and calm into your life? So when we get stressed, we experience this psychological stress, which is domanassa, distress. And all this emotional excitement disturb our thinking. Then we can also practice satipatthana. Bhante has mentioned this. Satipatthana means placing the attention within. And placing the attention within, you then focus in four different aspects. 4 different areas of focuses. When you're experiencing the physical stress, the dukkha on the left here, and there are certain bodily sensations where you're feeling this physical condition of hormonal changes in the body. First, you observe the hormonal change in the body. Kayanupassana. Kayanupassana comes from the 2 words kaya and pasana. Kaya means body, basically. Kaya is the Pali word for body. Pasana simply means examining. Examining or inspecting or observing, but critical observation. Not just observing as seeing it come and go, but observing it how it comes, how it arises, what is happening. So, Kayanupassana. Observing the physical manifestation of the reaction in the body as movements or tensions in the body. Next is to observe how the body feels. This is Vedananupassana. From the word Vedana and Passana. Vedana means feelings. This is not emotional feeling. This is bodily feeling. So the first 2, Kayanupassana and Vedananupassana, are bodily conditions. This is the bodily feeling of your body's reaction. Observing the manifestation as feelings in the body. And that is either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, or in terms of comfort, discomfort, or neutral. Okay? So observe that, how the body feels. Then comes observing the mind. The third focus is Chittanupassana, from the word chitta. Chitta is your emotional mind. How your emotional states arise. What kind of emotional states are you feeling? Are you feeling anxious or worried? Are you feeling fearful? Are you feeling angry? Are you feeling ashamed? So what is your emotional state? So observing the manifestation in the form of your emotional excitements or calmness of temperament or your mood. So observe this emotional state, Chittanupassana. And then the 4th one is Dhammanupassana, from the word Dhamma. And this word Dhamma is referring to experience, how you interpret your experience, the way you interpret what is going on, your circumstances. So it's observing the manifestation in the form of thoughts in the mind, which are the interpretation of circumstances, past, present, and future. So this is Dhammanupassana. All these are found in the books. So you should read the level 3 book, the green color book. So I won't go any deeper than that. So these are the 4 focuses of Satipatthana, 4 focuses of introspection. Because Satipatthana means introspection. Intro is internal, turning inwards. Spection comes from the word inspection, examination. Okay. Well, when you do that, you begin to form wholesome volition. You are able to then interpret your circumstances in a more wholesome manner, and you begin to form decisions and judgment based on more wholesome interpretations and more wholesome goals. Then you have wholesome volition, wholesome intention. With wholesome intention comes skillful action. Wholesome cetana leads to skillful karma. Skillful karma is kusala karma. Skillful karma. And with skillful karma, you are creating beneficial circumstances in your life. Vipaka that is beneficial to your life. So this is how you can apply conscious attention. First with conscious relaxation, now with conscious attention within, placing your attention within. If you don't do that, you allow imagination, expectation, and memory arising to disturb your thinking process, disturbing your mind. This disturbance is documented, very well documented by cognitive psychologists. Bhante was mentioning about cognitive psychology, the newer form of psychology, which is actually very beneficial to helping people become happier, helping people think more positively. So the research is done by two very well-known cognitive psychologists, independently as well as collectively, Aaron Beck, Albert Ellis. They produced 15 cognitive distortions, what we call thinking traps, 15. Well, you notice it mentions 17. The last two is by Billy Tan. So I'm going to show you 17. I'm not going to explain to you in details. It is all in the notes, which I'll give to you later. And basically, these are the way it affects how you interpret your circumstances. Mind reading. You begin to imagine what other people are thinking. So don't be a mind reader. We are very good at mind reading. We always imagine what other people are thinking. You know, we don't think about what we are thinking. We like to think about what other people are thinking. This is why a lot of people, they keep thinking about, oh, what are other people thinking about me? Do I look pretty? Do I look handsome? Do I look nice? Do I look tall? Am I looking too short? And then they begin to do things, right, to try to change that. Because they focus too much on what other people are thinking. Focus on what you think about yourself. So mind reading, thinking, imagining what others are thinking about you or your circumstances without clarifying. You're just imagining it, actually. Fortune telling, trying to predict what's going to happen next. We are not fortune tellers of our life. We are not fortune tellers of our circumstances. But we like to do that. We like to think, oh, something is going to happen next. Labeling, categorization, we like to make sweeping assumptions. When something happens, we like to then make big assumptions, right? And can blow things out of proportion. And there is no evidence to support these assumptions. Discounting positives. We don't focus on positive things. We ignore the positive aspects because our mind is drawn to other things. So we easily minimize or ignore positive aspects of circumstances. Every circumstance that happens in our life has a positive effect, has a positive aspect. Even the worst case scenario of the breadwinner, the father of the house, the only person who has a salary. The wife is a housewife. Children are too young, they are still studying. And he passes away. What does the wife think? The wife can think, oh, I have lost the breadwinner of the family, the household, no income. Oh, the worst things are going to happen. But there is a positive aspect. When a breadwinner passes away, it produces a circumstances where the rest of the family have to learn how to cope on their own. And that is an opportunity for learning new skills, learning new ways of dealing with things, for the housewife to start learning how she can do little things to make some income. It is also opportunity for relatives and friends to come and help you, to show their kindness, to be a part of your life. So these are opportunities. There's always positive aspects. So we easily discount them. The other one is negative filtering. Focusing, amplifying, expanding on things that are negative. And we focus too much on negative aspects. And to the point of excluding all positive opportunities. And then number 6 is black and white thinking. Extremist thinking. Dichotomous thinking. Extremist view of all or nothing. Which means when something happens, you think either it's going to blow, either it's going to be totally out of control, or it can be perfect. You know, too much of extreme thinking. And there is no gray area. We often think, oh, it's either black or white. There is nothing gray. It's always or never. No sometimes. Yeah? So this is black and white thinking. And then we have perfectionist attitude. And we are very good at perfectionist attitude towards other people. Other people should be like this. Other people should be like that. We're very good at that. And when they are not like that, we get upset, we get angry. We think, oh, my wife should be like this. Or the women would think, my husband should be like that. If he's not like that, he's not a good husband. You know, so this is perfectionist thinking. Righteousness, prioritizing truth, ethics, moral standards over human considerations. That means we are thinking in terms of strongly towards principles and not thinking in a humanistic manner. Not thinking about the human conditions. Not thinking about people getting affected and how they can need to cope with it and how you can help them and so on. We're just thinking what is right, what is wrong, what is evil, what is good. And then we make judgment based on that. So that is righteousness. Magnification or catastrophizing, that is blowing things out of proportion. Overemphasizing on specific details, blown out of proportion, worrying too much. This is a simple cause that often leads to depression. Minimization, overlooking, shrinking important issues. We minimize the important things in life. Right? What is important in life? One of the most important things in life, that's not making money. It's your health. It is your peace of mind. It is your mental condition and your physical condition. It is not about luxuries. So minimization is overlooking these most important things in life. Health. So what we do is we ruin our health spending the whole life trying to make more money. And when we have made enough money and get old, we spend all the money we have to try to save our health. Then we're focused on the wrong thing. When you're young, you're focused on making money. When you're old, you're focused on spending money. Number 11, unfair comparison. Negatively comparing with others' successes. This happens a lot, especially between parents comparing their children with the classmates or comparing the children with the neighbors' children, and saying, oh, why are you not as good as the next door neighbor? And in fact, some cases, comparing between different children, making the siblings having some kind of competition. Saying to one child, why are you not as smart as your elder sister? Or why are you so dumb? You're not as good as your younger brother. You know, a lot of parents do that. Unfair comparison. Number 12, what if? Over-intellectualizing or over-extended imagination of snowball effect. You start to imagine, what if this will happen? Too much imagination. What if? What if? What if? Life is not made of what if. Life is made of what is. And you can change what is by changing what can be. Right? So, but unfortunately we focus on what if. And finally, the last page here, the blame game. Again, we're very good at blaming other people, finger pointing. We don't realize that when we point finger at other people, 3 fingers point backwards. Yeah? So finding faults in others, blaming others. Then the opposite, the 3 fingers pointing backwards, we blame ourselves too much. We begin to feel shame and guilt, personalizing, finding faults in oneself and blaming ourselves. Emotional reasoning, number 15. Letting feelings alone guide your viewpoint or your conclusions. Allowing emotions to drive your decisions. These are the 15 that those two cognitive psychologists have produced. Then comes the 2 from Billy Tan. Believing is seeing. We often think that seeing is believing. We need to see evidence before we believe in something. But actually, that is not how life works. Many of us have certain beliefs, blind faith, certain things that we hold on to, some attachment of certain concepts. And when we have this attachment to certain concepts, we begin to look for evidence that support this concept. The moment we find the smallest evidence that support our concept, we say, there you are, it proves that I'm right. But when we see evidence that dispel the concept, evidence contrary to our concept, we ignore them. We say, no, that is not real. I don't want to consider that. So that is believing is seeing. When you believe so strongly in certain concepts, you become attached to it. You only see things relevant to that concept, and you ignore things that are not relevant to that concept. Yeah? So that's rejecting evidence that contradicts your beliefs, superstitions, expectations, and your concept. Number 17, past orientation. We're very good at that. We're always using the past to drive our decisions. We're always living in the past, letting past experiences dictate all decision making about future. Living in the past. We say, last time like that. We live based on last time. We're very good with last time. Just like we're very good with what ifs. Life is not made with what ifs. Life is made of what is. So life is not made of last time. Last time is history. History is made of last time. Life is made of this time. So live in this time, this moment. Live in the moment. So these are the 17 which you can, with this list of 17, it can help you assess and examine the way you interpret your circumstances. Dhammanupassana. How are you interpreting your circumstances? So make good use of these 17. I've actually summarized them into 10 questions, but I'll leave it to another time. That is part of my talk called Mental Proliferation and how we can overcome that. So maybe some other time, I've already given that talk here. Maybe one day I'll come back to Buddhist Maha Vihara and give another talk on that. 10 questions you ask yourself when you try to analyze or try to examine your circumstances and how you can lead a happier life. But these 17 are good enough. You use these 17 to see if your interpretation is falling into these cognitive distortions. Then you must practice conscious relaxation. Conscious relaxation relaxes the body. Biochemical activity gradually subsides. Tension in the body eases. And the mind no longer disturbed by tension in the body. And because a relaxed body is a necessary condition for a calm mind. Calming the mind is about introspective attention, placing the attention within. And basically, it helps you to bring your thinking to the present moment and not distracted by past or future or expectations. So the first one, it breaks the biochemical reaction. The second one avoids these mental proliferation and emotional excitement from sensory perceptions. That means what you perceive from your 5 senses, and from the 6th sense, from your mind, your memory, imagination, expectation arising. Now Bhante teaches, according to the sutras of the teachings of the Buddha, Bhante teaches the technique to do that. It's called samvara and pahana. Samvara means you eliminate these distractions from external sensory perceptions. Pahana means you don't allow the memory, imagination, expectation to disturb your interpretation of your circumstances. Now we will come to that in a moment. What Bhante teaches is actually based on the Arya Magga, the Noble Eightfold Path, or we call this the Sublime Eightfold Way. And Bhante translates the word Samma as harmonious, because that's really what it means, harmonious. Harmonious perspective, that means having your mind understanding what is happening. Harmonious orientation, that means focusing your mind on what you want to make happen. Right? Goal seeking, psycho-cybernetics, and then harmonious speech, action, lifestyle. These are the practices of Sila. And then harmonious exercise. Not effort. Effort is just one time. You do something and that's it. Exercise is you do something and then you look at the result and then you adjust what you do to help improve the result. That is exercise. That's how we exercise. Sama Vayama. And that's what we are doing in meditation. And then it will help us have harmonious attention, Sama Sati, and harmonious mental equilibrium, Sama Samadhi. Now, the popular or common translation of Samadhi is concentration. It is not concentration really. Maybe concentration was the first word they came across in order to explain it, but actually it's more than concentration. It's not concentration. It is introspective focus. And that leads to mental equilibrium. So it is focusing on what is within, and it leads to this mental equilibrium or tranquility of mind. Or another statement that Bhante likes to use is stillness of mind. The first 5 are householder practice. Bhante was saying that as a householder you can practice the Eightfold Path, but maybe the first 5 you can do well. You can do very well in the first 5. Perfectly too. Then in order to practice number 6, a householder can only do a limited part of number 6. And number 6 is what Bhante calls level 2. And that is the level 2 book. Then the level 1 book describes this 1 to 5. Level 2 book describes number 6. And level 3 book describes number 7 and 8. Right? So what we are doing in meditation retreat is trying to practice this harmonious exercise. Right? We have to begin with selective thinking, which is level 1. And when we are able to accomplish that selective thinking, choosing good thoughts, thoughts of compassion, thoughts of dispassion, thoughts of happiness, right? Thoughts of kindness, when we are able to choose these thoughts positively, then we are able to practice harmonious exercise. And that basically leads to tranquility of mind. Now, harmonious exercise, there are 4 parts of it. It comprises firstly samvara, and then bahana, bhavana, and anurakana. Samvara is about guarding your senses so that you do not allow impurities from external objects or external environmental conditions disturb your mind. Withdrawing your attention from perceived sensory objects. Don't pay attention to sounds or sights and get all distracted. Bahana is about elimination, removing your emotional excitement by withdrawing your attention from memory. Right? So basically, you don't allow memory, imagination, expectation to disturb you or to excite you. And you constantly practice that, and you practice this diligently. That will be bhavana. And in this practice, it takes you to the next level. And that would be the 7 steps to awakening, Satabhujanga, and focusing your attention within, and that is Satipatthana. And finally, you carry this practice into your daily life. Now, carrying this practice to your daily life cannot be possible if you are a householder. It basically is impossible. You cannot maintain a continuous state of this Satipatthana when in your daily life, if you are distracted by all the sensual pleasures you have. That's why householder practice cannot take you that far. Now, so far I've just basically summarized all that, and I'm going to go back to relaxation and stress. There is a part of the brain which is called the reticular activating system. That is found in the brainstem, very long neurons stretching to various parts of the brain. This is called reticular formation. Reticular formation have the longest neurons in the brain, stretching from the brainstem all the way across to the cerebral cortex, all the way. So it affects every part of the brain. Reticular activating system, or RAS in short, regulates the brain's transitions between 3 states: sleep, awake, and arousal. Arousal here is emotional arousal, emotional excitement, or stress state. It switches between these 3 mental states of sleep, rest, right, as one state, conscious relaxed alertness, and that is awakeness, right? This is when you are fully conscious, relaxed, and alert, it is called in the zone. And I'm going to explain to you what in the zone is in a moment. Then the third one is when you are emotionally reactive, excited by emotions, and there's a heightened state of emotional excitement, and this is called stressed. So I'm not going to talk much about sleep, just only one comment later on. We're going to focus on the other two. Emotional activation arouses the amygdala, and that activates this sympathetic nervous system. And this sympathetic nervous system leads to heightened state of emotionally reactive condition called stressed. Conscious relaxation activates the parasympathetic nervous system, and that leads to relaxed state of conscious alertness in the zone. So switching between these three states, the sleep and rest state, now you have to be careful. When you are meditating and you are sitting, leaning back on a chair or leaning back on a cushion on your upper back, not the lumbar or the lower back. Lower back is fine. It is the upper back. It is sending sensations to the brain through your, and these sensations going to the brain is picked up by the reticular activating system. And this picks up sensations related to resting, digestion, or sleep. Sleep when you lie down on bed. So your reticular activating system will help put you to sleep because you're lying down. But if you are meditating and you're trying to meditate, sorry, you're not meditating, you're trying to meditate and sitting, leaning back on the chair, thinking that, oh, I am relaxed, you are not. You're sending signal to the reticular activating system to put you to sleep. Sooner or later, you're going to snore. Yeah? So when you meditate, please do not lean back on the chair. Don't have anything in the back, upper back. Buddha has said that very clearly. Every single part of the sutra that talks about how monks should meditate begins by saying, go to a quiet spot, in a cave, in a quiet hut, somewhere, sit down, and put your back straight. Straighten your back. He didn't say lean your back. He says straighten your back. Every single part of the sutra that mentions about that process talks about keeping your back straight. Whether you are doing sitting meditation, or you're doing walking meditation, or you're doing standing meditation, keep your back straight. When you walk, keep your back straight by pulling your shoulders up. Don't droop like that. Similarly, when you sit and meditate, don't allow your shoulders to droop. Right? Because that is a very overly relaxed position, sending signal to the reticular activating system to put you to sleep. You can pull your shoulder back when you're walking very easily. Some people ask, oh, what do I do with my hands? Put them behind you. When you do your walking meditation, put your hands behind. That pulls the shoulder back a bit and your back will straighten up very fast. Small little hint, huh? Small little tip. Okay, so much for this sleep state. So remember, don't lean your back on a cushion or a chair when you meditate. Conscious, relaxed alertness in the zone. This is when you're consciously relaxed body and your mind is calm and alert. Now, calm and alert doesn't mean you are falling asleep. You know, sportsmen, all the best sports people in the world, they are very good at going in the zone. When they are playing and they are waiting for the opponent, let's say talking about badminton, they're waiting when Lee Chong-wei is waiting for Lin Dan to serve. He is not all tensed up. No, he is relaxed, but he is alert. The person who is all tensed up, the muscles are so stiff, he's not going to be able to move fast. But when the muscles are nimble but ready for action, alert and relaxed and calm, you can move very fast. And the same with all sports. Right? So that is in the zone. And the third state is emotionally reactive. When the body is all tensed up. You see, when you're playing game, if the sportsman is all tensed up, this tension that he is all tensed up, grinding his teeth, it's sending signal to the reticular activating system to accentuate this state. See, the one important function of the reticular activating system is to accentuate whatever your body condition is. If your body condition is all tensed up, it makes you all stressed. If your body condition is relaxed and alert, it makes you pay attention. If your body condition is all leaning back on the chair or is lying down, it makes you go to sleep. So you choose what you want to do when you meditate. Emotionally, oh, by the way, when you concentrate, so much concentration is effort. Effort causes stress. So it's not concentration. It is number 2, conscious, relaxed alertness. Paying attention, not concentrating, but focusing. Focus is not the same as concentration. Concentration is putting effort into concentrating. I am concentrating now. That is an effort. And that can cause tension. And that can lead to emotionally reactive state while you're trying to meditate. Okay. Emotionally reactive, unconscious emotional arousal. All these are in the notes, so I'm not going to read it. I'll just show you the picture. So what happens is emotionally reactive, and stress means there's high biochemical activity in the body, discomfort and disturbance in the body, irrational, erratic thoughts, because your thoughts are no longer focused on the right thing to do. Your thoughts are now focused on how all this stress is affecting you. Your thoughts is focused on, very negative interpretation of your circumstances. And then you become unconsciously reactive. And it may even lead to delusional thinking, delusive thoughts. And all this can lead to depression. So this is the emotionally reactive state. Conscious, relaxed alertness, emotional arousal, right, dissipates when you intentionally release tension in the body and remain consciously alert. Intentionally release tension in the body is by staying relaxed, allowing the tension in the muscle to just release a little bit so that you are not all tensed up with your muscles. Don't allow the adrenaline to continue working. Because when you are all tensed up, the signal going to the reticular activating system will actually cause the release of more adrenaline, making you even more tensed. And when you are in this conscious, relaxed alertness, there is freedom from tension. Yeah, all relaxed. Relaxed body and calm mind. You have a relaxed body and a calm mind. You can pay conscious attention, focus attention, and conscious alertness to whatever you're doing. And you can choose your thoughts. This is most important. Selective thinking. You choose your thoughts. Because if you are not consciously relaxed, the other state is that you are all stressed up. You are no longer choosing your thoughts. Your emotional thoughts choose you. See, when you are all stressed, emotional thoughts choose you. They are unconscious. They arise unconsciously. But when you become conscious of what thoughts you have, those emotional thoughts will go away. And you will you are conscious, you can now choose what you want to think, how you want to think. And then you are choosing your thoughts. So in meditation, you choose your thoughts. I give it a name. I call that the leading mind. The leading mind is the mind that chooses the thoughts. The stressed state, I call that the lagging mind. The lagging mind is when thoughts choose the mind. The mind is following behind the thoughts. Thoughts arise and then the mind follows. That is the lagging mind. The leading mind is the mind chooses what thoughts it wants to carry. Selective thinking. That is the leading mind. So learn, practice selective thinking. Study, understand level 1 book first before you try level 2. Selective thinking. Yeah. So this leads to in the zone. That's why a lot of sports people call it in the zone. You know, before I investigated this many years ago, I was wondering, what is this in the zone? I'm sure a lot of you are wondering also when these sports people talk, I'm in the zone. What does it mean? Well, this is precisely what it means. Consciously relaxed alertness. Let's take a look at what is in the zone. Here, they are using Tiger Woods. At the time when Tiger Woods was once at the peak of his career, when he was the world #1 golfer and unbeatable. Of course, after that, Tiger Woods got distracted with sensual pleasures. He got involved with prostitutes, and then his wife divorced him. He gave a lot of money to his wife in alimony, and his game suffered. He was no longer #1. Until today, he's still struggling, trying to get back to #1. Well, he is gradually getting there, but not yet quite #1. There are younger players now who are better than him, right? So this is Tiger Woods when he was #1, and they are also using another sports person to explain in the zone.
We know that Tiger Woods can do this because he has done it many times. But what is it about his brain that he's able to put the ball into the hole? What we found is the brain can either help you succeed in this athletic activity, or it can help you fail. And we think Tiger Woods has found a way to succeed most of the time because of his ability to modulate his own brain functioning.
Scientists can't scan Tiger Woods' brain in action. He would need to lie motionless, which would make playing golf impossible. So instead, they must make an educated guess.
Because he's blinking so little during a putt, we think that his anxiety is very low. Because eye blinking is usually related to anxiety. So he's very relaxed, like a drowsy state, a drowsy, sleepy level, but yet enough concentration that you can focus on the task.
Athletes call this special feeling being in the zone, when their movements seem to flow without conscious effort. It is the supreme combination of practice involving the cerebellum, concentration of the frontal lobes, and low anxiety of the amygdala within the limbic system.
Zone, it's very hard to get into. I really feel like if I can control my breath and I can get it as slow as possible, that'll slow down my heart. As soon as that happens, I feel like I get total consciousness of everything. All 5 senses are working the best they could possibly work.
Experts think the brain gets so focused, it's somehow able to block or ignore any irrelevant input. Brain and body begin working in perfect sync.
Athletes and everybody else, for that matter, all want to be in that zone, and there's something special about it. Everything gets aimed at the one task at hand, and when you do that, incredible things can happen. You have a real clarity of thought and decision making.
When I'm in that moment, everything around me is slow, and I can control what I'm thinking, I can control what I look at, I can control what thoughts enter my mind, and in turn that gives me the greatest chance for success.
So that is in the zone. In the zone basically means you're using your thinking brain, your learning brain. And our learning brain is called the cerebral cortex, surrounding the outer part of basically all our brain, right? The outer layer. And there are 4 lobes. The frontal lobe, right behind the forehead. The parietal lobe, which is right over the top. The temporal lobe, 2 of them on each side. And finally, the occipital lobe at the back. Actually, there are 2 of each because we have 2 hemispheres, left and right hemisphere. So when we talk about frontal lobe, it is also left and right hemisphere. So there's 2 of it. Frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, occipital lobe. The most important part of the cerebral cortex is this frontal lobe, the part which does all the thinking. It is responsible for all these functions: attention, long-term memory, logic, critical thinking. Logic is basically from knowledge. 1 + 1 is 2, that is logic. Critical thinking is the ability to analyze, right? Analyze things. Lateral thinking is creativity and imagination. Decision making, goal setting, planning. Now, decision making, goal setting, and planning, this is actually related to this thing called psycho-cybernetics that Bhante was speaking about. You decide on what goal you want, and you focus your mind on that goal, and you begin to visualize and create visions of what is it that you want to accomplish. So that is psycho-cybernetics. And judgment, reasoning, and rationalizing. Now, if you look at it, the most important, absolute most important is the bottom two lines. Decision-making, goal-setting, planning, judgment, reasoning, rationalizing. All these are happening in that part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex, which is part of your frontal lobe. It is actually found directly behind your eyebrow, just underneath the frontal lobe. That is the part of your brain which is responsible for these important functions. Meditation does two things to your brain. The first thing is to learn to tame the amygdala and the emotional brain, the chitta, the limbic system. So it learn to tame the limbic system so the limbic system is no longer reactive. That is the first thing it does, meditation does to your brain. The second thing meditation does is actually to sharpen and heighten your prefrontal cortex so that you are able to make good decisions and set goals, plan, judgment, reasoning, and rationalizing. Basically, that's what meditation is. And finally, on the last slide, benefits of meditation. It slows down your heart rate, improves blood circulation, lower your blood pressure, enhance immune system, calms anger, fear and anxiety, relieve depression. What you see on the left is basically what can be accomplished by the householder. So the householder practicing level 1 and a little bit of level 2 can do all these things. And then you can move on to more advanced benefits. Avoiding emotional excitement, taming your lust and greed, your aversion and hatred, and your delusion of the existence of self. Taming the lobha, dosa, moha. Cultivating introspection, practicing satipatthana. Developing cognitive consonance. Cognitive consonance is the exact opposite of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive consonance simply means you have tamed your emotional mind. Your emotional mind is now in full unified form with your thinking mind. Your emotional mind is no longer fighting your thinking mind. So in other words, the chitta is no longer fighting the mano. The chitta is fully tamed. And that is cognitive consonance. Instilling mental equilibrium, because when the chitta is tamed, you can then accomplish this mental equilibrium, samadhi. Not concentration, mental equilibrium, samadhi. And when you have accomplished samadhi, that is the last of the Eightfold Path, it then leads you finally to gain insight into realities. Panya. Complete panya. And with panya, you have vijja. Vijja means you are awake, awakened. And from there, you can then become awakened from the dream of existence and be liberated from all forms of suffering. So basically, that is the benefits of meditation. So I think that will be enough for tonight. When I finish, I'm going to put the notes there. You can come and pick it up before you leave tonight.